I believe that the fires we're cast upon are the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling where our temples pray as one. I believe in the word of wonder and a kingdom for the saved.
Larry Pollock here with Underground Performance Podcast. I'm here with IFBB Pro Brent Swanson, and we go back a little bit to the Boston Lloyd days.
Yes, sir.
I think we met through Boston. Isn't that right?
Yeah, we met through Boston because I know that you were really good friends with him and his dad. And, the crazy thing with Boston is that he had this online persona, but for people who really knew the real Boston, like he was a great dude, and he was great to me. He was great to Autumn. And if you were really friends with him, like I just feel like sometimes people just didn't get to see the good in him and just what a good guy he was.
Well, he had this kind of like online personality that he put on. He would like to just, what is it called? Mess with people online. Troll people. I mean, he did it to me and everybody else. He was like a prankster, but him himself, when you knew him personally, like you said, he was a solid, good dude.
Yes, very much so. And like, I think that we kind of miss that in today's day and age because he would call everybody out on their BS, and there's a lot of BS that goes on in this industry, as you know, and I know. And I think we are definitely kind of missing that in today's day and age. And, I think sometimes bodybuilders just get soft a little bit. Like, cause he would always say it in a joking matter. Like when I was, he would always call me, like when we talked, like Brent the Diabetic Swanson, like he was just joking around, and he'd give people like different nicknames. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like I think some people in this day and age are, pretty soft. Where I just laughed it off, and I know it was he meant it for good, and it was just just a way to make kind of like bodybuilding fun and interesting. So I don't know. Some people take offense to that stuff, but I just think it's funny, and I laughed along with it.
Yeah, I never took it anything personally. Well, yeah. I knew him since he was a little kid, so
right, for sure.
A relationship.
Yeah, now you met him when he lived in California as a little boy with his mom and dad, right?
Yeah, I trained at their gym.
Right.
When basically he was born. So yeah, he grew up in the gym. And,
right.
I trained at that gym I was a marketing manager, and my office was literally 2 blocks away from the gym. So I trained at that gym for probably 11, maybe 12 years. And the whole time when he was growing up.
Right. And I can even remember too, like back then too, seeing all his like guest posings with his mom and stuff like that. Like it's just a really cool dynamic, kind of how he just grew up in the sport and just loved the sport. And, the thing about Boston is that whether you hated him or you loved him, like he never, like you knew where you stood with him just because he was honest to a fault.
Yeah. I think that's why we got along, because, I was kind of straightforward, and so was he.
Right.
He knew that if he asked me something, I'm going to tell him what I thought.
Right.
And same with him. He would tell me whatever he thought.
Right.
We didn't always agree on everything, but at least you knew he was giving you his real honest opinion about whatever it was.
No, for sure. And that's the thing we like with when you have good friends, I'd rather have somebody be honest than just tell somebody what they want to hear, and, that's why I was drawn to him, just because he was so honest with everything.
Yeah. And like I said, I knew him from a kid. So I kind of looked at him like a little brother.
Right.
I saw him coming up all the way through, like when he was a teenager, but when he got really crazy with the stuff, though, that's where I used to tell him, like, you're getting too much, too crazy with it all. you know?
Oh yeah. And and I think he had a lot of people who were telling him that, hey man, your body isn't meant to be, a lab rat. But he
Yeah.
was just like, well, I want to know how this, I want to experiment on myself. And I'm like, oh man, like, I don't know. That's, I don't know. I feel like there's certain lines that you have to draw, but he was just so into all that. I mean, I think that, that kind of, it's just sad just because, being a good friend of his, that just kind of led, to the downfall of everything. But he was so passionate about it, that, like I understood. Did I agree with it? No, and I tried to talk some sense into him, but like I understood where he was coming from.
Well, I think kind of at that time, this is when like the peptides were like becoming a thing.
Right.
And I remember like one prep that we were both in prep. He was been prepped for, what was it? I think it was maybe that Florida show he did.
Right.
And I was in prep for USA's or national, something like that. And we talk every day. And I was also experimenting with the peptides and things like that but I didn't go crazy like on the PEDs, like, the levels he did.
Right.
I wanted to try it all too, just to see how it would work and whatever. But I never went nuts on the dosages.
Right.
I didn't believe in it. I tried it actually once and it didn't work for me. So there was still part of me, I think, that was old school. And, when I started, it was like, take the minimal that you can, not take the most that you can.
Right. I think from like your era to, guys now and things like that is that I think people need to take the least effective dose, and I think now people are pushing so crazy. And, the thing with the peptides that scares me too is that, if somebody were to take test and D-ball, I mean, D-ball has been out since the 1940s. All of these peptides that have been out since not that long, like, you don't know what's going to do long-term to you. Just because they're a gray area and they're legal, it doesn't mean that that they're getting more good for you just because there's not all that backing to. Whereas, if somebody were to take, something like a test and a D-ball, hey, that's been around since like the 40s. You kind of know what's going to happen if you do that. And that's what's just kind of scary with some of these things, just because even though they're easy to get, they're gray area, they're not really illegal. Like some of that stuff, when I see people do, that's kind of scary.
Well, I still like BPC and TB500. I like those two.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But some of the other ones, it's just like that some of these people like say that they're taking, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. The Renatutide, I think people are getting pretty good results with that. And
right.
I don't know. It's obviously we haven't had any clinical trials or anything, so who knows? But so far, it appears to be beneficial. But
right.
Like we said, we don't know what's going to happen down the line.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, I'm not totally against, people using peptides or anything like that. It's just that even some of those that are kind of stronger than the ones you mentioned are just kind of like, I don't know, or some of like some of the SARMs and things like that. I don't know. I've seen people take SARMs who've had some pretty messed up blood work after they've been done with them.
Well, SARMs are like a kind of a different issue.
Right.
I think there's like a kind of a distinction you have to make between SARMs and what were they calling pro hormones.
Right.
Back when they were putting those out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew people who would take those. I mean, that would wreck your liver worse than anything.
Yeah, they were just dirty steroids.
Yeah. Because wasn't the thing about that was that so pretty much when they put them on, when they, made them illegal, not the pro hormones, but like steroids illegal, there were so many that they didn't, just because most guys wouldn't take them because they were so much far worse out. So pretty much the ones that weren't on the list, they were selling legally off of wherever. And then, that was an issue. And then a lot of times they were selling those, and those were way harder on your organs than anything else that you could take.
Well, those were the actual ones that just didn't actually make it to market in the pharmaceutical realm,
right?
Because they weren't new. They were around for a long time, but they just weren't classified as anything because no one used that stuff. They were the ones that like people didn't use. So when they made the steroid ban and they made the ones illegal, like the regular Deca, Dianabol, and so forth, the authorities didn't even know what those were.
Right.
So they weren't on the list. So then people got creative, and I think it started with Balco, and they started finding, like what they call designer steroids, or just old steroids that just were never used because either they were ineffective or too toxic or whatever.
Yeah, and then those weren't on the list of being illegal, so then they found a loophole how to sell them and wreck people's bodies up pretty good.
Yeah, and put them out as vitamins.
Right.
and people thought because it's sold in a supplement store over the counter, then it's safe.
Right.
I know the first time I ever tried one of those, I don't remember what it was at this point, but I tried one and I just remember feeling crappy. Like you could feel like it felt toxic immediately. Right. So I think they've lost popularity since then. Now most of them are on the list and they're banned.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, I think that happened a few years afterwards just because of all the issues that were happening from them. But it's just crazy, though, how, most people aren't educated enough to where they just see it at a GNC or at some supplement shop. Oh, it must be okay for me, so I'm going to buy it and take it. And, that can be a pretty rough ride for a lot of people.
There's still like a couple things that are out there. One specifically like DHB, that's become popular. Some people are pushing it, as being really good. And I tried it myself, and I had really bad side effects from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's super toxic, and I got super inflamed after about 6 weeks. It's very strong, but I wouldn't recommend it. But some people are pushing that right now.
Right.
And, just your regular basics, the tried and true that we've been using since, like you said, back in the 70s, those still the most effective and still work.
Well, at least I think when people do something like that, you know what you're getting into. Some of these things that come out, and especially if you're not well versed on it, it's you're kind of playing Russian roulette. And then I think that the other thing too is that what scares me is that I just feel like supplements have been so commonplace in today's day and age. It's just like, you see all these kids who are like in high school or early college, and they're banging all this stuff. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, you don't even have your diet right, or you don't even have your training right. And it's just like, when you see this stuff, it's like, it's just pretty sad. And to where I don't think, that these kids are thinking long-term. And, I think when everybody's kids, they'll do stupid stuff, but, I don't know. It's just kind of sad just because I see this all becoming too commonplace, and people who are just regular gym goers who I don't know. It's just kind of crazy when you think about how much more common it is now than it was, 10, 12 years ago.
Although I got to say, I just recently went to the USA just a couple of weeks ago, and because I had competitors competing there,
right?
And I interviewed the middleweight, the light heavyweight, the heavyweight, and the super heavyweight, and we talked about a lot of stuff, and everybody was pretty much on what I would say is a normal program as far as like that stuff goes.
Right.
No one was taking anything way out or weird. And
Right.
they were taking, what I would consider like regular dosages for somebody competing at that level, which was a little over a gram total of everything. None of them, and I know they were being honest with me because I was there in person interviewing them, and I have a good relationship with those guys. And it was all pretty much, the theme was pretty consistent. Like emphasis was on the training and nutrition, and those were like, a supplement to help. But no one was pushing like crazy amounts of.
Yeah, and those are the guys I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, all these TikTok influencers and all these young people. I just feel like are just getting super like crazy and doing things. It's like for what payoff, because
there's some people that just do things just to be, outrageous, just to get, attention, basically.
Right.
There's that Chase Gaines guy that he talks about, he's taking like insane amounts of stuff. He's trying to be like Boston Lloyd #2.
Right.
And that's his claim to fame is he can take so much gear. But I've seen him in person. It's like, okay, you look like almost a regular dude.
Right.
So whatever it is you're doing, it's obviously not doing a whole lot for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think too, like with those type of people, and I know him a little bit. He's talked to me a little bit, but it's just like, are you just doing that to build your following? And if you are, whatever, but it just seems like it's kind of not what you want to be known for, but I mean, to each their own, you know what I mean? I don't judge anybody, but when people do that, it's just kind of like, what's your why?
He does do that to build his following because that's his claim to fame. That's all he is about.
Right.
He can't say he's not a competitor.
Right.
So he's not winning shows. So he can't build a following like that. I mean, that's all he talks about is I took, so much gear. And to me, it's like reckless because I think you're just giving a bad message out to people.
Yeah. And the thing is that I think bodybuilding can be definitely a beautiful and a positive thing. I mean, it has been in my life, and but then there's also a very dark side to it too. Just like with anything, there's good and there's bad. But I just personally, the people that I like to follow are people who are just like, trying to do the good in it. Just because, when you talk about gear and you talk about things like that, it's kind of going to be clickbait. You're going to get some attention for it and everything. But is that really what you want to promote? For the sport, because the sport can be a very, very good thing in teaching you discipline and, being your best self. But then when you kind of throw the craziness on top of that, it's like, I don't know, at least for me, that's not what I'm about. But I mean, that's, I respect it, but it's just, I like to see more of talking about the good of bodybuilding and how bodybuilding can enhance your life versus all that other garbage.
Well, like I was saying, the people that I've been talking to, and even the pros and most of the people I've been talking to over the last year or so, and I think they've been pretty honest with me from what I can. And I know when someone's bullshitting me or not.
Right.
I don't think anybody's doing it. That people aren't doing that crazy shit anymore. People are like,
I think most competitors, like most pros and like national level guys aren't. It's just everybody else just trying to make a name for themselves on social media, and everybody who you wouldn't think would be doing it. If that makes sense.
Right.
I feel like there's this whole niche of like social media influencers who are just doing crazy off the wall stuff to build their following, and it works. And I respect anybody's hustle, but it's just kind of crazy that I think a lot of these influencers are potentially doing more harm to their bodies than actual pros or high level people.
Well, some of them, I mean, some of them I don't even believe that they necessarily do what they say they do.
Right. So you think they're probably just doing it for like just clickbait stuff?
Yeah, I mean, some of them I don't believe even what they say. I mean, they may have tried it one time, but I don't know that they're actually doing all that all the time.
Right.
Boston was different. He actually was doing that all the time, but
right. And but Boston was competing, and I don't know, like Boston made it more open. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put this dog in my bedroom. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Okay. I'm sorry to pause this because he's distracting me. He won't stop. Come on, Bubba. Come on. Sorry, I heard him chirping in the background, and then they were being calm, so I left them out, but then they were chirping, so I want to make sure that I can focus on you more, Larry.
No worries. Yeah, I have dogs, so I know what it is. So let's talk a little bit about your background, like how you got started in bodybuilding. You're how old right now?
I'm 39. I'll be 40 next year.
Okay. And how old were you when you started?
Well, I started competing at 20 years old. I started in the weight room when I was 14 years old because I didn't go through puberty till I was like 18 years old. I was smaller than everybody. I didn't have to shave. I didn't grow hair under my armpits till I was like a junior, senior in high school. And, I wanted to be in the weight room because, for sports and everything, that I had to be bigger. Right. And then once I hit puberty and I went through my growth spurt, my body just kind of exploded. I went on to college, never was a partier. My dad was an abusive alcoholic. Didn't party, didn't do drugs. Just wasn't my thing. If people did that, that's cool. But I saw my dad was an abusive alcoholic, so I saw what that stuff could do to you. Mm-hmm. And I also think that a lot of people, when they bodybuild, I think a lot of bodybuilders have trauma of some sort because it's the more people you talk to, they get into it for a certain reason. And then on the weekends when all my friends would be at bars and partying and doing all that crazy stuff, like I was like, I just rather be at the gym. And I really didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. Like that's just what I wanted to do. I had to pay my way through college, personal train, worked at the gym, and then I just worked out. And then when I was 20 years old, there were some national level bodybuilders at my gym. And when they knew I was serious, they said, hey, have you ever thought about this bodybuilding thing? And obviously I got all the muscle magazines. I just never knew that was possible to look like that. I was just working out because I enjoyed it. And then I said to myself, maybe so. They're like, well, come to our show, watch and let me know what you think. So I watched it. I was like, man, it's something I really want to do. Did my first show when I was 20 years old. And then I've literally been competing ever since. And, bodybuilding's been great. That's why I say bodybuilding, there's a lot of beauty in it because being a type 1 diabetic, I have to be very, very disciplined in my eating, which it helps. In high school, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, which I had that under control to the best of my doing. But obviously I was able to kind of put that into bodybuilding because if you get a bodybuilding, unless you're a genetic freak, it's a lot of structured, it's a lot of discipline, which I thrive on. So that was good from it. I met my wife through bodybuilding. We've been together since I've been 20 years old. That's why I say, sometimes bodybuilding gets a bad rap, but for me, it's brought a lot of positives to my life. And that's why I love it. I mean, I know that you're the same way. Like every day that I wake up, like, yeah, I have a job, I have responsibilities, but I know as long as I can get my workout and get to the gym, like that's kind of that's what I look forward to every day of my life. So I've just been doing it. ever since. The only year that I took a year off was when I had diabetic retinopathy. I went completely blind in my left eye for about 9 months, right after I turned pro. And then I've been competing every year since. Probably, I would say, kind of my end goals. I'm getting ready for the Mexico Pro this year in October. The next year, I won a Masters Pro show in Toronto last year, but that wasn't 40 and over. I just entered it because they had a 35 and over. Won that, but that didn't qualify me for the Masters Olympia. But my goal is next year to do an open and a Masters show, maybe do the Masters Olympia, and then kind of call it a day, just because I don't want to be one of those guys who, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't want to compete when I'm anything less than my best. So as long as I keep progressing, I want to keep doing it. But then at some point, I know that as I get older, I'm not going to progress. So, and maybe I'll change my mind from that, but I probably have another year or two that I want to do it. But, that's just kind of my story, and I've been a type 1 diabetic since I've been 4 years old. Gone through kind of a lot of stuff, but, that's why bodybuilding has been such a blessing and in a good thing in my life.
Just curious, you mentioned you didn't go through puberty till you were 18. Do you think that had anything to do with your diabetes?
100%. When I was, what was I? When I was 23 years old, this was before TRT clinics. This was like literally, I went to my endocrinologist. I had my blood work done, and my testosterone when I was 23 years old. And the thing is that I was still putting on muscle. Like, I was a very muscular guy, but I was like, I don't really have the sex drive with, my wife. I just really just don't, I'm tired all the time. And, going to an endocrinologist, I have to get my lab work done about every 3 months. And my testosterone started declining. And my TSH, my free T3, free T4, and my testosterone were tanked. And this would have been like 16, 17 years ago. And my testosterone was like at a 22. And I was like, oh my gosh, but I felt fine, I was doing fine, as far as building muscle and everything, probably because all the insulin that I have to take for being a diabetic. But, my true endocrinologist was like, well, they're like, up to this point, have you done anything? I was like, no, and because I was just, getting started in bodybuilding, and they said, we could try the whole Clomid route and everything, but you've been a type 1 diabetic since you've been 4 years old. I don't really, in my expertise, if we tried the natural route to get you back up to like normal, probably not going to happen. You have thyroid issues. So I've been on like Synthroid and legit TRT, not this TRT that people just hop on when they're, levels are 600 or whatever, since I've been 23 years old. And it's sad because that has definitely done that. Because being a diabetic since you've been 4 years old, it totally wrecks your whole hormone panel. Totally wrecks it. And I've seen it happen to a lot of different people. So I've had diabetes for 35 years. My A1C, which is your average blood glucose, is always good, but part of the disease is that you just go through stuff. So I was actually on from an endocrinologist, legit testosterone replacement, just to put me at a good level since I've been that young.
Wow. So when you actually did go on the hormones, I imagine things changed drastically for you.
It did. And I just felt like it's just crazy because you start to think that some things are just normal. Like, right. I was like, oh, this is how normal people feel or whatever. And then I just felt like when I went from I went from 23, my number was 22 or 23, which was my doctor said you basically have the testosterone of a pubescent girl. And then all the way back up to high end of normal. Yeah, it definitely things started to click for me. I felt a whole lot better, but it was such a slow fade to where I really didn't know how bad I was feeling until I got fixed.
One thing that you said that's really interesting is that even before you started that, when your hormones were like almost nothing, you were still building a lot of muscle.
Yeah, I think honestly that's the insulin. That, I mean, like, put it this way. This is what I tell people. I would give anything not to be a diabetic. Anything, because I don't know a time where I wasn't a diabetic. You know, every time, which technology has gotten a lot better, but I always have to think 24/7, what is my blood sugar? Okay, if I'm going to go work out in 2 to 3 hours, I have to make sure that my blood sugar is at a certain level so I don't dip all the way down, especially in a contest prep where carbs are limited. Like, I can't just go, eat a bunch of like carbohydrates that aren't on my plan, unless it's an emergency. So you constantly have to be 2 steps ahead of the disease. And, when somebody's blood sugar goes a little high or a little low, it totally makes them so tired for the whole day. Well, I mean, that's kind of how my whole life is. But in saying all that, like, I hate this disease. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Like, it's horrible, right? But it's my normal because I've had it since I've been 4 years old. So I really don't know any other way to do that. But I will say, if I didn't have this disease, because my parents are very small, structured people, like, I would not be the size I am without it. And it's just because I literally have, exogenous insulin flowing through my body 24/7.
And that just shows you the power that insulin has.
Yeah, it's got a lot of power. And like you said, I mean, my hormone profile, was tanked. And it wasn't from anything that I did. It was from being a diabetic for however many years. And that's why I didn't really, when my doctor said I had super low testosterone, I was like, what? Like, I look like a guy, like, I'm putting on muscle, I'm in the gym all the time. But I personally think, I can't prove it, but I personally think that is from the high amounts of insulin, that my body requires every day.
Well, the first person that introduced insulin into bodybuilding, at least that we know about, was Tim Belknap.
Yeah.
And back in the day, he was Mr. America when they had that title.
Right.
And he was a type 1 diabetic, and he was massive.
Yeah.
And there was a whole story on him, how he went from like the little skinny kid getting picked on to all of a sudden just huge. And I used to see him in person down at Gold's Venice and stuff, and he was huge. Yeah,
that's from all the old pictures. That's one guy who which I don't know if he's still living or not, but that's one guy who I kind of wish that I could talk to, because there's not a lot of type 1s at this level. I mean, I know Jason Poston, he was a men's physique pro, high level pro. But as far as like men's open bodybuilders, other than me and Tim Belknap, I don't know if there's been, and I'm sure there has been. So, but I personally, other than his name, I don't know anybody who has that disease who's a, men's open pro.
So I'm just curious, since then, insulin's become more prevalent in bodybuilding, and I've experimented with it over the years as well. And it seems like, you being a type 1, you got to be really on top of like your numbers and everything all the time. But I've seen like different side effects. It definitely puts on muscle, but I've seen also, for me at least, I got to a point a few years ago where my A1C was starting to get high from the growth hormone.
Right.
And I wasn't taking a lot. It was taking like 3 units, 4 days a week. But over many years of taking GH, it was still getting high. And so I got on a long-acting insulin, sort of like a Lantus. It's called Basaglar, which is the same thing as Lantus.
Right.
But I also noticed that I'm naturally very lean all the time, but I did put on like a little bit of body fat.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Over time using that stuff.
Yeah. So I always say insulin's a double-edged sword, because I'm known for my conditioning. But if people realize the extremes that I had to go to get to that level of conditioning, like, it's very extreme. So yeah, insulin's great in the off season, putting on muscle, staying full, all that stuff, right? But for me to get into this type of shape, it just cracks me up. And I don't say anything. I just keep in the back of my head. But some of these guys are like, yeah, I'm really dragging because my carbohydrates got dropped down to like 400 or 300. And I'm just like, you're complaining because of that? There's been times that the last few weeks getting ready to for a show, I've been 100 or 120 a day, all the way down to like trace carbohydrates. But the thing is, on the flip side of that is that when I carb up for a show, I can go from flat to full as a house in about 24 hours. Like, I don't need a big, long carb up, because you got to think, every time I eat carbohydrates, I have to use a certain amount of fast-acting insulin, and I can go from flat to full in the matter of hours. Like, some of like the before and after pictures, like the day before my show and then like show day, are pretty drastic, just because of the insulin. So the extremes and it's taken me a while to learn this, because there hasn't been a blueprint for bodybuilders who compete, right? So the thing is that I've kind of had to learn, and it's taken me a while, but I have to put my carbohydrates down so low to get to that level of conditioning. But I just have to know in my head, like, I'll be okay. You can get through this. It's just discipline and just sucking it up. And then, but I do know when I carb up, having that fast acting insulin, like I can get full a lot easier than somebody who, doesn't have this disorder.
So you're one of the most conditioned guys I've ever seen compete, and especially on a big guy.
Right.
You get peeled.
Right.
Like crazy shredded. And so when you're in a contest prep, and I'm just assuming, I'm guessing that when your carbs are getting that low, then you take probably very little insulin, or
super low. That's a good point. So I'm on an insulin pump. So what people don't realize is that I have basically a little port connected to me, and it gives me a certain amount. It gives me a basal amount, which mimics like my normal pancreas. And then before I eat, based on my blood sugar, I'll put in my blood sugar, and they'll tell me how much insulin to give myself. So total daily amounts of insulin, like in my off season, like my total amount might be 150 to 170 units a day. Okay. And that's Humalog, Theos, anything fast acting, right? And contest prep, like right now being like 10 and a half weeks out, my total daily insulin is about 75 to 80. At the very end, because I am so sensitive, my carbs are so low, I might use 20 to 25 units a day. So it literally, there's so much of a difference. Just because when I don't have the body fat and I'm not taking in the carbs, like, hey, my body hardly needs any insulin. But then I feel like when it's almost like a sponge. I feel like when I'm so like flattened out and I'm just so like wrung out, then when I start adding that food and that insulin in, my body just literally like super compensates, and I just get tighter, harder, and fuller. But like I said, that's taken me so long. I feel like, I've been competing for 19 years. I feel like I really didn't have a hold of this probably until the last like 8 or 9 years, just because I've had to, work with different coaches and even just try on myself, like, hey, what works, what doesn't. But I just know when I go into a prep, and that's why I usually only do 1 or 2 shows a year at a certain point, because those last 4 to 6 weeks of prep, like, I have to push myself harder. I'm not saying this arrogantly, it's just a fact. I have to push myself harder than probably anybody does in order to get into the shape that I have to, just because of the condition that I have.
But at the same time, you have control over that, able to lower your insulin to such a low amount.
Correct. And the thing is, though, if I don't do that, if I were to do like what most competitors do and lower their carbohydrates to like most open guys, the lowest they might go is 300 or 400 carbs a day. If I did that and just did a normal protocol, like I wouldn't be as conditioned as I am, because my body just wouldn't allow that to happen, just because it's just too much insulin to get that real dry, grainy, conditioned skin, to where that's what people want to look like. So I just know, hey, if you want to bring the look that you want to bring, like, you're going to have to do some things that most people aren't willing to do.
I think that I don't know. I think like I've had guys have to go on keto to
Right.
get at the end of prep because just to get the fat off.
Right.
Their body's holding on to that last bit of fat, and then we'll just go straight keto.
Yeah, and keto works. That's the thing. I mean, does it suck? Yeah, but it works. And I think guys are getting better now with their conditioning. But 7, 8 years ago, man, like you didn't see a lot of. I feel like conditioning was just kind of by the wayside, and you still see it some. But I was really impressed, like watching Tampa. Watching some of these shows lately, like these guys' conditioning levels are, especially the top, 5 or 6 guys are bringing it conditioning wise. And I'm glad that's being changed because, a few years ago, I just feel like guys were only coming in about 75%.
Well, I think the knowledge has evolved, especially with insulin and GH.
Right.
I think, back in the 90s when insulin sort of became a thing, along with the GH, I don't think people really knew how to use it.
Right.
Like you have it down to a science because of your diabetes. You have to.
Yeah, because if I don't have it down to the science, I'm dead.
Right. But people didn't know what they were doing, so they would just take random different amounts. And
yeah, and the thing is that what's really sad is that, again, me, like I don't judge anybody. I feel like people should live their life however they want. If it makes them happy, whatever, as long as they're not hurting anybody. But I will say that it really kind of stings me a little bit when I just see people be reckless, especially with things like insulin, because it's something that I used to stay alive. I wish I didn't have to use it, but I've had to since I've been 4 years old. But you see a lot of guys who get reckless with it or don't have the knowledge on, hey, if I'm going to use this, I have to eat a certain amount of food. And, they'll pass out. You've had bodybuilders die from it, just because they've been reckless and they don't know when to stop, and they don't know how to adequately, give them enough food to cover the insulin that they're taking. And then a lot of bodybuilders, and I won't mention names, but one is a pretty good friend of mine. He was using so much insulin that he turned himself into a diabetic because of how much he was banging insulin. And it's just like, man, I wouldn't wish this disease on anybody. And when you see somebody go that far to where they wreck themselves, to where they basically turn themselves into a diabetic and their, pancreas won't produce, it's just kind of sad, that, all that just for bodybuilding, so.
Now I'm curious about what you just said, because, one school of thought is that if you're taking the insulin and GH, then you don't have to take, your pancreas is not working as hard because to lower your blood sugar. So it's not overstressing your pancreas. But you're saying he actually turned himself into a diabetic by taking more insulin.
100%. 100%. And people would know his name. So I'm not going to say his name. But literally, he was banging so much insulin. He might have already been pre-diabetic, who knows? But literally, like now he's dealing with lifelong issues that he's having to deal with because of how much insulin that he was taking. And I feel like too, and it's just me seeing from other bodybuilders, right? Because like I have to take it 24/7, 365. But just looking from the outside looking in, I feel like if you are going to do it, and I'm not a proponent of people doing it, but if they're going to do it, right? If they're going to go down that road, if you do it for like an 8 to 10 weeks sprint, like 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks tops, you don't tax your pancreas as much. To whereas these guys who are running it like for months on end, that's when you kind of see some issues with, your pancreas not being optimal, So just in seeing some of those things, that's just kind of the dangers of it.
So do you think it's like testosterone, like when you take it, your body just doesn't produce anymore?
Well, I can't prove that. But a lot of people, my DMs are full every day since they know I'm a diabetic. Hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, if you are going to do this, it's probably the safest way to do it. But I can tell you with the people who I've talked to, the longer that they do it, like the longer duration, the more issues that they're going to have from it. you know.
Because their pancreas just stops producing insulin because
And it's not, it's not as optimal as it was if they didn't. I won't say that in everybody that's going to stop producing like testosterone, but then a lot of people, when they come off that insulin, they're going to have high blood sugar numbers just because their body was like, hey, I don't have to produce as much naturally because you're already giving me, you know, exogenous insulin, and then their A1Cs and things like that, you know, start to creep up and up. So,
Right.
and again, like, I'm no doctor, no scientist. This is just things that I see from people who will reach out to me. And I always want to try to help them just because, you know, I have to live with this. So, you know, I just, you know, even if I don't agree with it, I just say, hey, if you're going to do this, which whatever, like, I at least want to try to give you kind of what I've dealt with as being a type 1 diabetic. But yeah, it can be a slippery slope. And I think a lot of times too, when people are very novice and their insulin sensitivity is very, very high, you know, they don't eat enough food to cover the insulin as well, then you can get yourself in a world of hurt.
Because your blood sugar is going too low.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've known people who've literally, like, their husbands or, you know, sorry, not their wives have had to like put like sugar down their throat because they took insulin post workout. Let's say they had a hard leg day. So, I mean, they're just beat up, right? And they don't eat enough food and they just black out and pass out because their blood sugar shot too low.
Well, that's kind of like just not knowing what they're doing as far as like.
Correct. But you'd be surprised how many people take insulin being a bodybuilder and have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's really something like you should not do it unless you really fully understand it.
Oh, correct. Because the thing is that, like, let's be real. Like, if a bodybuilder took a whole bottle of testosterone, injected it, they're not going to kill themselves. You take one time taking insulin, which is not an anabolic steroid, and you take too much and you don't cover that food, you could, if you're home alone, you go out, you're dead.
Right.
You know, which is scary. And I think, you know, that's the same kind of thing that you see people, you know, taking all these crazy diuretics too, is that, like, you know, you take too much diuretic, you play with your, you know, sodium potassium pump,
yeah,
you can kill yourself. So I feel like even though insulin's not an anabolic steroid, you have one bad episode with it, that could be game over. And I wish people, you know, took that a little bit more serious.
Now, you mentioned you use the Humalog.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use that exclusively?
That's all I use. So anytime somebody is on an insulin pump, it's all fast-acting insulin. So the reason why I like it is that if you use a long-acting insulin, once you inject that insulin, you're kind of along for the ride, right? Whereas with having short-acting insulin, just a little bit amount every hour, if my blood starts to go low, I can adjust it to where then if I catch it early enough, I won't have to eat extra food. My blood sugar will just raise. Or if my blood sugar is going too high, I can catch it early, give myself a little bit more insulin. So I have more control of my blood sugar using fast-acting insulin only, just because actually it was Humalog. Actually, I use a insulin called FIASP. FIASP, probably the last year or so. That's even faster than Humalog. So for somebody like me, if my blood sugar starts going high, I can dial up the FIASP and it corrects it, which is a Humalog base, but it's supposed to be a little bit quicker. It's like one molecule different. It will correct my blood sugars almost instantaneously, which is really, really cool for a type 1 diabetic. So if I wasn't on an insulin pump, I would use a long acting and a short acting together. But I've been on an insulin pump since I've been 19 years old, and it's great. Something else that I just started using, the continuous glucose monitoring systems. When they first came out, first of all, they're expensive, but when they first came out, there was too much of a variance between the finger stick and the CGMs. But now they're on like the third and fourth generations of them, and they are so accurate now. I actually wear a CGM just because I can literally look at my phone. I can know my blood sugar is at all times. The time where I get the most scared is at night when I go to bed, because being awake, if my blood sugar goes high or low, I can kind of feel it. But when I go to bed at night, if my blood sugar goes above a certain level or below a certain level, my phone will start beeping and going off to let me know, hey, like, you need to correct this, which is good for me, because as a diabetic, I won't lie. Like, every time before I go to bed every night, I'm just like, oh man, like this, like, I hope I wake up the next morning, or I hope, like, if my blood sugar goes too low or too high, like I'll wake up. That's always been it's just kind of a fear that you get. So the CGMs are so accurate now that where if I start going high or low, I can see it almost instantaneously, and then I can correct it, based on, what I need to do.
And that's a little thing that you like wear on your arm or somewhere.
Correct. Yeah, there's different brands. I was doing legs last night, and I either you're supposed to put it on your tricep, but sometimes I'll put it on my leg, and I was doing it on my leg and it ripped off because I was doing belt squats and I had it up high on my thigh and it ripped it off. And it's especially with my flexibility, this one I'll probably put on my tricep, but I need Autumn to help me put it on because it's hard for me to reach all the way back there. But yeah, so it's just something that you wear, and then, like, based on what brand you use, every 7 to 14 days you take it off and then you replace it with a new one. I've used all of them. So my pump has one, Medtronic has a pump, and they actually have AI built in to where the AI, if your blood sugar starts going higher or lower, it'll automatically, like, just give you insulin based on how it knows your body, which is cool, but it's bigger. Like, it feels like you're wearing something, which I occasionally wear those, but I don't like those the most. The Dexcoms and the Libres, the Dexcoms are a little big. For me personally, what I have found, because I've worn all of them, is that the newest Libre, I think it's like the 3 Plus, that is the most accurate of all three of them. And it's the smallest. It's like the size of a penny. And then you just literally connects to your phone. You wear it on your arm. Most people have their phone with them all the time, and it will give you alerts when your blood's going high or low, or I can just look at my phone at all times. And I think at every 5-minute intervals, it will give you what your blood sugar is. So, I mean, that's kind of cool to know, but I've had to wear a lot of them and experiment with a lot of them. But at least for me personally, I think the newest Libre is the way to go.
Have you heard about the new one they just came out with? It's like a little, like, I don't know if it's a chip, but it's like a little thing.
And they put it in like the pellets of the testosterone, right?
They put it under your skin.
Yes.
And then you have the thing with a sticker.
Yep.
That sits on top of it, but it's not like a needle poking through your skin.
Yeah, it's weird though. Like, I think I would be open to that if I didn't have to wear anything on me. But since you already have to wear that little, like, square thing on your body, it's like, well, I'm already wearing like a little circle with the Libre, so why does it matter? And especially with the Libre,
this one you don't have to change it every 14 days. You can wear it for.
I know that, but then again, like, they still have to cut you in, and I've seen people and it leaves scars. I think now it used to be every 6 months, but now you can leave it in every year. But the thing is that if, like, that just talked to your phone and you didn't have to wear any, like, thing on you, I think that would be cool. But you still have to wear, like, this, like, little, like, sticker on you. So since you already have to wear something, it's just like, I just, have stuck with the Libre. But if they do make it to where, like, you don't have to wear anything and it'll just automatically, like, Bluetooth to your phone, that's something that I would consider. But then again, it's like, do I really want, like, this chip being put in me at the same time too? You know what I mean? So, but it's cool. Like, when I was, I've been one for 35 years. So to just see the amount of technological advances that they've come out with in the last 35 years is pretty wild. And now with AI and all this stuff, it'll be even crazier to see what they come out with in the next, 10 to 15 years.
So with a Libre, it has like a little tiny needle that, like,
yeah,
you, right?
Yeah. So basically, just like sits in your interstitial fluid. It's like yay big, and just sits there, and it just reads your blood sugars, and then just automatically just Bluetooths to your phone.
And so, is it actually sitting in the muscle?
No, it just sits. I mean, you put it in your tricep, but I mean, it just sits on the very, very, like, top layer of your skin. in the interstitial fluid. And so it's not deep at all. I mean, it's like very, very, very small. Like I don't even feel that it's even there.
But I'm just wondering, like when you're super, super lean and your skin is like paper thin, what is it going into?
Well, probably when I get that lean, I typically don't wear it. Like right now it's fine, but when I get like paper thin, I'll just go back to finger sticks for 4 to 6 weeks.
Right. Because, you know, like I have Crohn's
Mm-hmm.
and I am taking a medication called Skyrizi, which is, what do you call it? A biologic. And so far it's been working for a couple of years, I think, that along with my diet and all that.
Right.
But it comes in a applicator thing that's like it's basically 3 milliliters of this thick like solution. It's almost like glue. And
Right.
I have to take it every 6 weeks. But with the applicator thing, you're supposed to either stick it on your abdomen or on your thigh, and it has a needle that goes in, and you turn on this like machine and it pumps it in over about 40 minutes because it has to go in like slow.
Right.
But I can't use the applicator thing because I don't have enough body fat
Yeah.
anywhere to put it in. It's supposed to be subcutaneous, not intermuscular. I don't
Right.
have enough body fat. The needle will go right through my skin into the muscle.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what I had to do is I have to draw the stuff out in insulin syringes and like go at an angle under my skin and
Right.
put it in, because if it goes straight in, it's going to go right in the muscle.
Yeah. And then it won't do what it needs to do.
It doesn't absorb properly.
Right.
So
Right.
it's kind of a pain in the ass because I literally have to take almost 3 milliliters shots of this stuff. And like I said, it's thick like glue.
Yeah. That's a lot.
I go like my top of my right thigh, then the top of my left thigh, and the last part in like my oblique under the skin there.
Right.
Like I don't have enough body fat to just put that thing on.
How often do you have to use that?
Only every 6 weeks. That's
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good though. But yeah, that'd be a pain.
Oh yeah, it's a whole production that night. I have to like take Benadryl so you don't have allergic reaction,
Right.
and then sit there and do this. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but like when I first got it, I talked to the drug rep, and I'm like, okay, so I tried this applicator thing, but the stuff's just squirting out all over the place because I don't have enough body fat for it to go in.
Right.
So I kind of figured this out myself because they don't have it. You can't. It just comes with the applicator thing. You can't just buy a bottle of it.
Right. Well, isn't it crazy too? Like, and that's how I feel like with my diabetes is that like not a lot of people at this level who are doing it with it. So I've had to literally just experiment and just find out, you know, what's worked, just because, you know, when you're kind of an anomaly, and especially youth being that lean, you know, they probably don't have many people as lean as you are taking that medication, is that, you know, you really kind of just have to troubleshoot your way to figure out like what works.
I just figured this out myself because
Yeah.
they didn't even know what to tell me.
Right.
And apparently they make it for another use besides the Crohn's that comes in like an insulin pen.
Uh-huh.
I can't get that one because it's not under my insurance. It's not designated for Crohn's. It's designated for something else.
Isn't that horrible? Like, so insurance is just such a scam. Like, they tell you what you can and cannot do. So, for instance, like on my diabetic, on the Dexcoms and the Libre, my insurance will cover Dexcom. So I could get a 3-month supply of Dexcoms, which I don't think are as accurate, me personally, for $150 every 3 months. But my doctor wrote me one for the Libre, and it's not preferred. So I spend $300 every 3 months. So basically double and they do the exact same thing, but the insurance will cover one than the other, which you pay so much for health insurance, especially having health issues. You have to have it to where I just think it's pretty corrupt with big pharma, what they tell you, what brands you can and cannot use. It's not, hey, what works best for your body. It's just, it's just, you're basically got to use this or else.
Well, because they want to probably get it cheaper.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It all comes down to the bottom. It all comes down to, money, but they don't care about you, which we all know that they don't care about your health. They just want to give the cheapest amount of coverage, and keep you paying.
Right. Well, that's kind of typical with insurance.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I have an endocrinologist, and this is like my fourth endocrinologist, because, I had a really good one actually a couple of years ago, and then he moved away. But most of my endocrinologists, I'm constantly like having to like school them on like things, because they just don't even understand.
No, it's just cookie cutter. It's very cookie cutter. And if you are like a diabetic who is overweight, here's everything structured. Boom, 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 boom. But anytime that you are different, or lead a different lifestyle or everything like that, they just look at you like you have three eyeballs, and there's like, well, I don't know how to help you. It's like, I'm coming to you because you're a doctor. How are you at least not able to, brainstorm on a solution? It's just crazy how indoctrinated they are on, okay, so you do this, this, and this, but to get them to think outside of the box for a lot of them, it's just like, it's pretty crazy.
Well, I had a endocrinologist, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, and he didn't want my testosterone over like 400,
right?
Because he just didn't think it should be. And he said to me, a person your age shouldn't look like you do. And I said to him, you're about my age. Should I look like you do? And he was like, pot belly, little skinny stick arms, look like 1 foot in the grave. I'm like, really? Should I look like you do?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me? He didn't even know what to say.
Yeah. It's funny because I have a similar story to that. So I switched endocrinologists. I'm with a great guy now, but the lady who I was seeing, and like my labs are always great. I'm on top of my game, all that stuff. She would just like, she's like, you shouldn't be bodybuilding. You shouldn't be bodybuilding. And she would just like dog me, and me being a nice guy, just usually just shut my mouth and whatever. But originally, like one day she just started popping off at me, and I just said, hold on a second. I'm in your waiting room. Everybody on there is about 400 pounds on oxygen, can't even walk. So if you're going to get onto me about what you think I do or don't do, I said, I hope you're doubly hard as them, but I guarantee you that they're not. And she was just kind of like, didn't know what to say. And it's just like, you're dealing with people who are morbidly obese, eating garbage all the time, zero exercise. I mean, like you said, just like 1 foot in the grave, but then you're going to tell me like what I'm doing. And you look at my labs, you see my labs all the time, and they're good. You're going to tell me what I'm doing is harmful to me. But yet I guarantee you, and just because of the way I look, you're not taking that same arrogance to all the people that you're helping who are on oxygen tanks, who can barely walk into your waiting room.
Right. Well, because that to them is normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the normal of American society, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's normal. And in their mind, you should be normal.
Yeah.
Like a normal, obese, unhealthy person.
Yeah. Because Larry, how old are you?
I will be 59 in November.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like you are in great shape. You're always in great shape, right? But most 59-year-old men are hobbling around, fat, out of shape, COPD, all this stuff. But like you're, pretty much an anomaly to most of these doctors. They don't see most people like you. Like when you walk in the waiting room, they should be like, hey man, like whatever you're doing, like let's just keep you ongoing, because guess what? You're healthier and you're more functionable than 99% of 59-year-olds I do. But because they look at a number and your testosterone's 400, they want to like pick on that. Like to me, that just makes zero sense. And to me, like I just don't know where doctors get off on all that.
again, they know what they know, and they're used to dealing with what they're used to dealing with. So when they come across someone like myself or you, they don't know what to do with us.
Yeah.
They literally just don't even understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just sad because it's easier to pass judgment on somebody, which, you know, it should be. Most 59-year-old people should look like you and should be able to exercise and all that. So that's how America should be, but it's never going to be that way. So it's just crazy how, you know, I find that a lot too. And I feel like a lot of times that's why a lot of bodybuilders don't want to go to doctors, because they're treated that way, where it's like, you know, I think every bodybuilder, where I think everybody in general should have labs done minimum 3 times a year. Because if something starts to go haywire or something starts to go sideways, like you're going to want to know. And especially with like heart disease, you know, being the #1 killer in America and everything like that, like, wouldn't you want to know if your blood work starts going sideways so you can catch things earlier rather than later? And especially in the bodybuilding world, you know, with doing things that some people do, you know, they're just afraid to go to the doctor, or they don't have the coverage with their insurance or something like that. And, you know, I think it can be a dangerous game if you just keep your head in the sand rather than, you know, being proactive about your health.
Well, I'm fortunate in 2 things. One, I have such a long history of blood work because I've been literally doing my blood work for, I don't know, 30 years now.
Right.
That they can't really argue with me because I can just look, this is my blood work for 30 years.
Yeah, you can show them the data.
Yeah. And what can they say? It's like, okay, this is what I do, and here's my blood work to prove that it obviously it's right. And the other thing is I got lucky. I have a really good primary.
Mm-hmm.
And my primary is really good in the fact that he openly will say, you know, this is not my specialty. I don't really know about this, but he'll refer me to whatever specialist I need to see for my Crohn's or like the endocrinologist,
Right.
and a cardiologist. He'll refer me to those people.
Yeah.
But he's pretty good. Like, you know, because I've been working with him for, I don't know, probably 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows, like, you know, I eat healthy and I do the things that I'm trying to do to be as healthy as I can.
Right. Yeah. And then, you know, it's just, you know, and that's the thing too. It's just like, you know, especially, you know, as I'm going to be turning 40 and everything like that. And I think it was just indoctrined in me because I've been 4 years old. Like, I've been getting blood work done all the time because I was forced to since I've been a kid. So it's almost like that discipline is just in there. It's just in there doing that. And I think a good doctor like that who will work with you is worth its weight in gold. Instead of just finding somebody who's a pill pusher or who just wants to get you in and get you out and get paid, you know, somebody who actually
Right.
cares about your health and kind of what you're wanting to do.
I actually have a competitor that I started training this year, and I'm like, you need a CPAP, because he did. You know,
Right.
probably anybody who's got a big neck and, you know, you're a certain size, you need a CPAP.
Right.
And he's a pretty big guy, and I'm like, you need a CPAP. And he had decent insurance, and I was able to refer him to my doctor because I know my doctor is good. And I said, go see Dr. Miller, tell him I referred you, and tell him you want a sleep study. And he went and did that, and Dr. Miller ordered him a sleep study. He's got a CPAP.
Yeah.
No issues.
Yeah, and for people who have that, I hear that's like a game changer. Like once you get on that, it's just like you don't realize how much energy you didn't have until you had one.
Oh, I needed one for years and years and years. Like, I knew I needed one because, you know, whoever girlfriend I was with, they'd tell me, like, I'd be up in the middle of the night, like, choking.
Right.
I didn't know, but they'd tell me that, like, I sound like I was choking on something or I was going to die.
Right.
And, you know, there was a time when I was scared to drive long distance because I was so tired all the time. I was like falling asleep at the wheel because I wasn't actually sleeping, because I was waking up like all night long, not breathing. And so I knew I needed it, but every doctor that I saw, you know, they look at me like, oh, you're fine. You know, I tell them, I think I need CPAP because this is happening. They'd be like, oh, you're fine. And finally I saw Dr. Miller. He sent me to the sleep study. And yeah, I was stopping breathing like, I don't know, 40 times every minute.
Oh my gosh.
So I was never getting any deep sleep. So I was
Right.
always tired.
Right.
And then as soon as I got the CPAP, game changer, completely changed everything. Now as soon as I put that thing on, I'm knocked out. I go have a deep sleep and I wake up and I'm not tired at all.
Right. Now, how long have you been on that for?
Oh, I guess it's been probably about, I want to say probably 6-7 years.
Oh yeah. See, it's crazy because everybody thinks that, you know, because I have a, you know, pretty big neck. And I always even ask Autumn, just like, do I snore in my sleep or am I doing that? And they're like, you are the lightest sleeper ever, which thank goodness. But, you know, I'm pretty cognizant of that too, to where, you know, if that were to happen, you know, I would need one. But it's crazy because when I lie down in bed, I don't do that. But if like I fall asleep in the recliner and my head's like this, I'll wake myself up like choking. But then if I'm laying prone, then for some reason I don't do that. So
that's amazing at your size. Because
I know because I know with big guys with big necks, like they have those issues. And no, like she, you know, and she's a very light sleeper. And I typically fall asleep before she does. And she's like, you don't toss, you don't turn, you just sit there like a rock until you wake up when I'm laying down. But like I said, if I fall asleep watching TV or whatever, and if my neck's like this, then that stuff starts to happen.
Wow, that's interesting because I thought everybody that's just a certain size would need that.
Yeah.
Because from what I've seen, most bodybuilders, like if you're over 200 pounds, it seems like, you know, they have those issues.
Yeah.
Almost everybody that I know.
Yeah. Well, maybe God was like, you're dealing up with your diabetes. This is one less thing you got to deal with.
Yeah, you're lucky like that.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's switch. This is all real great stuff we covered, but let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about your training and like your philosophy of training and like how you started and how it's evolved over the years.
Yeah, so it's changed a lot over the years. You know, I was always taught, you know, as a kid, you know,
Let me just say one thing before you start. For people who don't know, Brent is like one of the biggest muscular bodybuilders on this freaking planet. I mean, when you see this guy in person, he is huge. I mean, we're talking like Nick Walker huge.
Yeah, sadly, I just don't have the structure, you know what I mean? Or I think I'd place better. But yeah, it's, you know, you have to play your cards. And I think that's why I go on the conditioning, just because with the conditioning and the size, like I know I'm not going to beat anybody with my aesthetics. Like I'm a very realist person. So you kind of got to play with, you know, what God gave you. So, but yeah, so my philosophies have changed a lot. Like when I was younger, it was just compounds. I hardly did any isolation movements, you know, squats, deadlifts, rows, you know, basically all just the peanut butter and jelly moves. And to me, that built the most amount of mass the quickest. And I think when people start out, that's what they need to do. Just stick with the heavy compounds, the basics. Then obviously, as I got to start competing at like age 20, still the heavy compounds, but did isolations and things like that. But it's crazy now that I'm getting older. Like I still do the compounds as I can, but I don't recover as quick as I once did. And my joint, I have a lot of different joint issues that I have to deal with. So now I do as many compounds as I can, but like I have to do things a little bit differently. So for instance, I always just do heavy arm training. Now I have to do a lot of times on my compound movements. I have to do them BFR style, blood flow restriction, where basically you wear these wraps, you do half the weight and it gets you to the same level of hypertrophy, which is all scientific based and things like that. And honestly, my arms haven't lost any size from doing it that way. For instance, now when I squat, because of my shoulder, I have to do it with a safety bar, holding it here because my shoulders are so jacked up I can't get them all the way back. When I'm doing chest, I have to really focus on my setup just because I can't press the weights that I once did. I have to do a lot of slow and controlled reps. I have to utilize time under tension, drop sets, add sets to get to that level, just because it's funny because my poundages have gone down. Like, I'm the biggest that I've ever been right now. But if you go back 10 years ago, the poundages that I pushed, I would have killed the person that I am today. So it's like all the poundages, the heavy wear and tear back then helped me build my muscle, but I'm able to preserve it and, put a little bit on utilizing other things than just like heavy all the time. So now I would say, I push as hard as I can every workout. The volume's high, but I cannot do the poundages now that I was doing 10 years ago, just because I am getting to that age to where some of these things are catching up to me.
Well, I think everybody at some point, if you're training long enough, it goes through that, because I was the same. I was like heavy compounds for most of from the time I started training from 13 years old until I want to say maybe 8-9 years ago.
Right.
It was just heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, heavy bent over rows, heavy bench press, heavy shoulder press. That was my bread and butter, and that's how I built my size originally.
Right.
But then, I tore a rotator cuff. So like you said, I can't grab a bar behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tore a tricep tendon and I had it reattached. And just like I have an SI joint like thing going on in my back. So I've been forced to use more machines now.
Right.
But I still managed to make it work. Like now I use a Roger squat instead of a barbell.
Those are awesome. That's my favorite. Sadly we don't have one at the gym, but that's my favorite squat machine there is.
Oh yeah, I have no pain in my back, no pain in my knees, and I can squat like 600 on that thing for reps.
Yeah.
And it still trains the shit out of my legs.
Yeah. So for instance, talking about legs. So I can remember when I was a kid, I shouldn't say kid, maybe early 20s, I would always do German volume training, 10 sets of 10, just heavy squats. Just like very, very hard. Right. And I'd do that. I'd have phases where every leg day, that's what I was doing for a long, long time, to where now, fast forward to 39 years old, I tried to barbell squat, obviously with a safety bar, every other week, because when I do it every week, I just noticed that my back takes a toll. My piriformis takes a toll. It definitely takes a toll on it. So I'll do 1 week where I'll do, safety bar squats. The next week I'll do, a power squat machine, or more hack squats or something like that. So, and a lot of it's just not okay. 1 week. A lot of it, as for training so many years, just kind of instinctive. Okay, am I not barbell squatting because I'm lazy, or am I not doing it because my lower back and my piriformis and my IT bands are just beat to crap? So I think I just kind of run through a checklist in my head. Okay, how are you feeling? How far is your show out? And then I just kind of a lot of times just go based on when I get to the gym, how am I feeling that day? And what's going to be most beneficial to getting the most bang for my buck.
Actually, I started that back when I was at my prime, when I was 250 pounds and I was powerlifting. And I started training with a group of powerlifters. And I was competing in powerlifting at the time, and they would deadlift every week. Mm-hmm. And after 3 weeks of heavy deadlifting, my deadlift actually started to decline because my lower back just couldn't take it.
Oh yeah.
And so what I started doing, one week I would barbell squat and I would train back, but I wouldn't deadlift. I would just do like rows and different back exercises, but not deadlifts.
Right.
And then the following week, I would deadlift with my back workout. And then I would do, for my leg workout, hack squats and leg press.
Mm-hmm.
So just to leave my lower back alone. And I've been doing that ever since I started. And I still do that to this day. Like even now I have one leg workout where I do the Rogers. Well, I always warm up with like leg extensions and seated leg curls. And then I'll do the Rogers squat and the leg press. And even though the Rogers squat is easier on my back, it's still like my whole body is kind of like more stressed from it. And then the following week, I'll do the same thing. I'll warm up with the seated leg curls and the leg extensions. But then I go to the pendulum squat and then the hack squat and then a belt squat. So I'm totally like not messing with my lower back at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that it's just funny because, you know, for us who have been doing it for many years, and you just take it for granted. When you're young, I can remember just like being young and dumb, going in, not even warming up, putting 315 on the barbell and just repping it out, right? And now I just crack up, but because by the time I get done foam rolling and stretching and doing all the things that I got to do to train legs, you know, like I'm a half hour in, just getting my body primed to be able to do, you know, what I need to do. Yeah.
I'm like laying on the mat with a massage gun, digging on myself all over the place and stretching for like 30 minutes.
Right.
Before I even do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, too, I think to train smarter, you know, luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had any major like tears or anything, but I think that when you start to think about those things, and you do have to think about those things as you get older, like, you know, had I not have done all of these things and been proactive with some of this stuff, I'm sure I would have torn something, you know, before now.
Well, I had a few injuries over the years and they came at different times, not all lifting. Like I tore my cruciate tendons when I was young, bouncing a nightclub, literally like just getting into fights with people.
Right.
And that really wasn't anything to do with lifting weights.
Right.
And then my tricep tendon, I actually tore also in a fight. I hit it on the cement. Some guy tried to pull the knife out and I rolled and I hit my tricep on the cement. And I didn't even feel it at the time. When I stood up afterwards, I'm like, oh shit, something's wrong with my arm.
Right.
So yeah, that didn't even come from lifting weights. But my SI joint thing, that came from I was deadlifting with steel toe boots on because I was in TI right after Operation Raw Deal. And in order to go on the weight pile, that you had to wear steel toe boots with have a heel.
Okay.
So, and I never deadlifted in a heel. So I was deadlifting in these boots and I did something to my SI joint nerve and it got compressed. So that slowly turned into a thing over the years. Initially, it was like it hurt and then it went away. But then over the years, it just flares up. But now that I do almost all my back work, like chest supported rows and different machines, it doesn't bother me. And I still train my lower back on reverse hyper. But
yeah, that's hard to beat that.
Yeah, I have a really great reverse hyper, and that thing's amazing. It actually helps your back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because some people kind of shy away from that, but I think that's one thing that, you know, most people need to do just to help strengthen their back. You know, a lot of people say they get, you know, kind of a weird soreness from it, but you know, that's because it's not strong. you got.
Actually, it's you know, Louis Simmons developed that thing because he was in a car accident and he wrecked his back.
Yeah.
And he developed that thing to fix his back. And what it does is you're pulling from the other angle. And so it actually opens up your spine.
Right.
It's I use it religiously every back workout. At the end of every back workout, I finish with Nautilus ab crunch supersetted with that reverse hyper. And it works your back, but it's also opening up your spine from the other direction.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know why anybody wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, when you train, you squat, and you do all these things, it's just compression,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to have something to open it up.
Yeah, and I also have a decompression bench at my gym.
Uh-huh.
And after every workout, I'll just hang upside down for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hang longer. Sometimes I'll hang for 5.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in those.
Yeah, the one I have is cool because it's not like the one where you strap your feet in, but it's like the pads like on a leg curl machine.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get in there and it flips. You flip yourself over. It's got handles to you lower yourself, but you just hang.
Right.
And it's being held by the back of your knees. So it's not like you're on a board with it. And it works great.
Right.
I put even all my training clients, no matter what, even brand new, at the end of every workout, it's like, okay, go decompress. And they'll just hang. I start them out with like 1 minute, and then they'll work up to like 3 minutes.
Right.
And I'll just like literally like play on my phone or like check my messages because I'm not looking at my phone during the training session.
Right.
So afterwards, I'll go hang on there, and then I'll like check my text messages and whatever while I'm hanging there.
Yeah. And that's good. And the thing is that, that you're just spot on to where, you gotta do. And I think if the sooner you do these things, the more you can stave off things, just because you think about all the compression that we have throughout our day, especially people who work out, you got to do something to, help lengthen it as well.
Well, at my top, I did an 820-pound squat.
Wow.
And I remember when I would unrack the thing, before I bent my knees, my whole body would go. It would like, as soon as I'd unrack it, my whole body would like compress.
Right.
And I think I shrunk myself.
I wouldn't doubt it, all that weight on there.
I was like a couple inches taller when I was young. And now I think the squats actually compressed my spine.
Right.
I don't have any I don't have no spine injuries or anything or no pain in there, but it just compressed me just holding that weight on my back.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt it. Think about everything just compressing. It kind of has no way to go. I stopped doing, because I did the powerlifting thing too for a little bit in the off season of my bodybuilding when I was younger. But the biggest thing that I noticed from like the heavy squats, the heavy deadlifts, going, especially like competing and all that abdominal pressure and everything, it just made me more blocky in my midsection. Number one. And then number two is I have like a small, you can barely see it, but I have a super small hernia above my belly button. And I'm just kind of like, I don't want this to grow to a point to where I'm going to have to get this operated on. And my waist never looked as blocky as when I was like doing the powerlifting in my off season. So that's and then my joints just couldn't handle anymore. So that's kind of when I started getting out of the, doing some like powerlifting phases, in the off season of my bodybuilding, just because I wasn't to the point to where I was going to do anything with powerlifting. It was just kind of fun to train with those guys. But, and I have the most respect for those guys, but that's kind of why I got out of doing that.
I actually put on the most size that I ever did when I was doing powerlifting competitions at that time.
Yeah.
I would say after 20 something years of training, I couldn't get my body weight over 230. And it's when I started the powerlifting, within 2 years, I got it up to 250. Yeah. And I'm always lean. So that was 250, like lean.
Right.
And I know it was from that heavy training.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing bodybuilding training with the powerlifting. It wasn't like I just.
Yeah. So you're doing more of like a hybrid. That's how I would do it too.
Yeah, I do my bench presses, but then I also do my incline dumbbell press.
Right. Whereas they would be done after the bench press, you'd go do your stuff. And same with me, like I would like do my squats with them, but then I'd just go do all the other stuff that I would normally do.
Right. Yeah, like they didn't train like arms. They didn't do side lateral raises, but I would do that stuff.
Right.
They didn't even do shoulder presses. They would just squat, bench, deadlift, and like almost very little accessory work at all.
Yeah.
And they just straight squat, and they looked like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, they were big and strong, but they looked like refrigerators. There was no roundness anywhere. It was just like big square bodies.
Right.
But strong
100%.
as hell. I mean, I trained with Scott Mendelson for 10 years. I've never seen anybody move weight like that. It was just nuts.
I mean, just how, especially at that level, just how strong those guys are. It's just like, good grief. Like it's just crazy.
He was benching. This is back before they had the super shirts. I mean, they had the bench shirts, but now they have these like next level shirts.
Right.
But this was, I want to say like 2005. He held the world record in bench, which was, I think it was 1,042 at the time. And he also had the raw world record, which was 714 or 716, something like that. He was the only person that simultaneously held the raw record and the equipped record at the same time. But the most impressive thing that I ever saw a person lifting, after we did the equipped bench in his shirt, and he did like 1,000 plus on that day, and I know because I was his liftoff person. We would do the bench press, and we would do like I believe it was like 3 sets of 3 on the bench as on our training, and then we would do 2 sets of close grip bench for like sets of 5. And he had finished his bench press, and we were doing the close grip bench. And he got on there with no equipment, no nothing. And he had 600 pounds, and he just took it, and he was like a warm-up. That's never seen anybody move weight like that.
That's wild. And some of the, I think that stuff's so fun to watch too. Like anytime, like at the Arnold, when the animal cage is there, or like even like or at the, the main stage in the expo, that stuff, just to see like the mindset those guys like get into before they do that. Like it's just very cool to be, part of that.
Yeah. I've trained with almost all the top bodybuilders, a lot of great powerlifters, but I've never seen anybody move weight like that.
Yeah, I mean that's wild. Just like it was just another day in the park, 600 after he did all that stuff without a shirt on.
Yeah, with completely raw, nothing. He just laid down on the bench, took the 600, and he just was pumped out.
Like most people move 135, just up and down, up and down,
like it was nothing.
That's wild. That's when you know you're made to do something. That's when you know that you're doing what you should be doing, when you can just move something like that with ease.
But I can tell you that when I was training with him, that was the biggest and strongest that I ever got. When I was doing that powerlifting along with my bodybuilding, I probably wasn't the most aesthetic at that point, but it took me to another level of like size that I just never had before.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when you train like that, like you're literally forcing your body to grow. You're literally put it under so much stress, like it has no other option but to grow.
And I'll tell you what was crazy. The first time I benched 500 in training, we would do triples. And the first like 3 weeks that I did it, my hands were aching for 3 weeks just from holding that weight.
Right.
But then that pain went away in my hands, but my hands got like catcher's mitts. They got like super thick. And I had like a crazy grip strength doing that just from holding that weight in my hands.
Right.
Yeah, it just puts a different stress on your whole system like nothing else.
Yeah. Well, probably too just took, before you could do that weight, just holding it, just like it probably just took a minute for your CNS to catch up to what you were trying to do.
Oh, well, for sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like literally after the workout, my hands, I'm like, Jesus, my hands are sore for like 3 or 4 days.
Right.
But like I said, after like 3 weeks, the soreness went away, and then my hands just got really thick.
Right.
Just gripping that stuff.
Yeah.
So now you said you're doing like more higher volume. So what would you consider high volume? Because everybody's all over the place with that.
Well, I would say like typically, I'm doing, I would say based on, I'd say like 20 to 25 sets per workout. I still do a bro split. Like I don't do like push pull legs. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just how I like to train, and I like it. So, like typically like I'll have in a week, I'll have 2 leg days. I'll have a chest day, arm day, shoulder day, back day. And I'll do like 20 to 25, working sets. Typically my rep ranges like 10. I would say the lowest I go in a compound movement would be like 8 reps. The highest I go is around like 15 reps. I would say like in my isolation movements, like 10 to 15 reps. And then typically how I'm feeling that day, like 1 or 2 exercises, like I'll do like time under tension, or I'll do like rest pauses, or I'll do like drops that are just something to extend the set, because since I'm not able to go as heavy as I once was, I feel like you have to create some of that stimulus through just doing straight sets. So that's typically how it looks like. So in a normal week, I'm a little bit different. Like Monday will be my quad emphasis leg day, just because my legs have always been behind my upper body. So Monday is legs, Tuesday's chest, Wednesday's back, Thursday shoulder, Friday is arms, and then Saturday is like posterior chain leg day. And I know those 2 leg days are close to one another, but I like to just hit them and then have the week to recover. And also too, on Saturdays, typically I'm a school teacher and I have online training clients. So I know on Saturday mornings I can spend 2.5 hours in the gym to wreck my body on legs. And then on Monday at the beginning of my work week, I'm going to have the most energy. So that's why I do my quad based workout on Monday, because as the week goes on, I just start to wear down. So I kind of prioritize it that way. I know that's not a lot of rest, but then if you think about it, like Tuesday through Saturday morning, I'm, off my legs.
So you're training 6 days a week?
6 days a week.
So it's really like each body part's hit once a week, because you're
Correct.
kind of breaking hamstrings and quads.
Correct. Just because my legs now have caught up to my upper body, I would say, but I'd always been upper body dominant. So, I mean, like to get my legs to the point to where they have been now, like I've had to really, really work hard for that. So that's why I basically, and especially legs are half your body. So that's why I give them, I work them out twice a week versus, upper body. I just hit everything once a week.
And when you say 25 working sets,
20 to 25.
And so like how many different exercises are you doing for whatever?
So typically on my compound movements, I'll always do 5 sets. And then on non-compound things, I'll do 4 sets.
So 5 working sets?
Yeah, but I don't take a lot of like when I say like working sets, like once I'm warmed up, like, and like for instance, like if I train back, I'll do some light pullovers to get some blood flow in and going. Like I'm not wasting time with non-working sets. So I'll just like what I consider like 5 sets, like they're my working sets, like I wouldn't say all out, but they're not warm-up sets. So that's what I mean by working sets.
So are you going to failure on any of those, or are they just to what level? Because you said
how people say like, oh, leave 1 rep in reserve or 2 reps in reserve. There's nothing wrong with that, but I typically don't train that way. Like I train to where, okay, if I'm doing 12 reps, like I'm going to go as heavy as I can for 12 reps. You know what I mean? So I typically train that way rather than like where people are like, well, we'll leave 1 rep in reserve or 2 reps in reserve. Like, and maybe, scientists will say that it's wrong, but it's just the way that I like to train. Like once I'm warmed up and I'm feeling good, like I like to take every set as hard as I can go.
So pretty much to failure.
Correct.
And you'll do 5 working sets like that.
Correct.
That's
so like when I squat, I'll do 5 sets. If I'm doing something like leg extension, I'll do 4 sets. If I'm doing like back on rows, like in bent over rows, I'll do 5 sets. If I'm doing something like a seated cable row, I'll do 4 sets. On all my chest, like on all my presses, I'll do 5 sets. If I'm doing like flies or something like that, I'll do 4 sets.
So that's quite a lot of volume, actually.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm a volume guy, and you know, I probably do more than I need, but like, I think in bodybuilding that nobody sees themselves for what they are. I feel like people think either too highly of themselves or too lowly of themselves. I kind of think that I look at myself as lower than myself, so I'm never afraid of overtraining. So I will literally, at the end of my workout, I just always ask myself, did you give everything that you had? And then I feel like I can't stop until I know that I'm just like dead at the end of the workout.
Right. Well, I feel like that too, but I don't do 5 working sets. I'll usually do like two what I consider like all out sets after the warm up sets in an exercise.
Right.
Because
I've done it sometimes too, like where like I will leave a rep or 2 in reserve until that like 3rd or 4th set. Then that's all my all out set. And then what a lot of guys are doing now too, which I've done, is like then like on that 5th set, I'll do a back off set. But you know, I've done a lot of things, but how I enjoy training is just like, if I'm there and I'm going to do it, like I'm going to go as hard as I can.
So how long does a typical workout take you?
Too long. Too long. I mean, I'm not somebody who's on my phone chatting with people. Like, it's like I have a workout partner, and then sometimes Autumn trains with us, so at the most we'll have 3 people. Honestly, I don't like 3 people. I just like me and a workout partner. I would say for legs, legs is about 2 hours. I would say back is probably 1.5 hours. I would say shoulders, arms, and chest is about 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes. But I feel like with legs, the reason why legs take so long is that, you know, when you're doing a heavy squat, leg press, whatever, it just takes longer for you to recover than when you're doing a lateral raise. You know what I mean? So those days I know take longer. So I like to put those on days where I know I have more time, you know, that I can devote to the gym. And also when my energy levels are going to be the highest.
A typical leg workout after warming up for half an hour on the mat will generally take me about 2 hours, and I'm not.
I didn't count in my warm up time. So that was just like once I do my first set to my last set. But no, those time periods weren't me warming up. Like I didn't count my warm up in that and like foam rolling and doing all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, but like I said, I'm not even doing high volume, and it still takes me 2 hours to get through a leg workout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because, you know, after you've done like a super heavy set to failure, it takes a few minutes before you can do another one.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I feel like, for instance, like when I deadlift or squat, those take so much longer than when I end my workout, like a plate loaded leg press. A plate loaded leg press will take me 1/3 of the time as a, you know, safety bar squat, just because it takes me that much longer to recover before I can do my next set.
Right. Yeah. It's like a typical leg workout. I'll do like leg extensions and leg curls, and I'll do 4 sets of each, but we're counting warm up. Like I start with 20 reps, then 15 reps, then 10, and then a drop set. Right. I can get through all that in like 10 minutes.
Right.
But then I go to my squats, and I'll do like 1 warm-up set with 1 plate, then another one with 3 plates, then 5 plates, then 6 plates. But once I get to that 5 plates, now when I do the 6 and 7 plates, that part of that workout will take me probably 40 minutes.
Right.
Just because, you know, I'm so dead after each set. You know, from doing that, you can't just like do that to failure or a strip set and then just do it again in 3 minutes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But and if you don't take that recovery time too, it's not going to be an all out set. You know, like you got to get your heart rate back down to a baseline, because after doing a strip set on squats, like your heart rate's going to be pretty much at max.
Oh yeah, I I do that one. I'll do like one set to failure for like 10 reps, and then I'll do the heavy strip set right after. And those two sets, my legs are cooked almost.
Right.
And then I'll go straight to the leg press, and then I don't really warm up on the leg press. Like I'll do a weight that I can do for like 10 reps because I'm already warmed up from squats and everything I've already done.
Right.
And then I'll do one strip set on the leg press, and that my legs are almost done by then.
Oh, for sure.
And then I'll just finish with standing leg curls supersetted with the abductor and adductor machines. And like that whole series, even though like I'll do 3 sets of standing leg curls, like a big giant set with the abductors and adductors.
Right.
And so you're talking 9 sets, but that whole 9 sets only takes me 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the squats and those leg presses probably take me an hour and a half.
Yeah.
To do 7 sets.
Right.
Because it's just the weight and how much it's taking out of you.
Yeah.
You just
for
can't
sure.
go that fast and do it like that.
Right.
Which is like when you're saying you're doing 5 working sets to failure, you got to be moving pretty fast to get through that.
Yeah, I am. And that's why a lot of times too, I don't think that I don't have to do it like in contest prep. I wouldn't say that I'm a high cardio guy. Just because my output is so much when I'm working out. Like when I get done with the workout, like I'm sweat on the floor, like my output is pretty high. To where in contest prep, like right now I'm at 30 minutes of cardio. I do it every day, but my leg days, just like zone 2. And then the highest I might get the last 6 to 8 weeks is like 40 minutes, where, I know a lot of people who minimum are doing 60 minutes, like the whole contest prep.
What is your body weight right now?
I'm 280. And so I just did a guest posing in Utah, and I was I think 281. And I would say if I had to be ready for a show, I would say I could probably be ready in 6 to 7 weeks. So I'm a little bit ahead. But yeah, so I'll be 10 weeks out on Saturday.
Okay. And how many calories do you think you're taking in every day right now?
Honestly, I don't know, just because I listen to Dom. Dom Super Slice is coaching me, so I haven't even calculated all that, to be honest. I just look at my plan and just eat it. I mean, like a lot of my proteins are like 11 ounces. I have like 1 shake meal a day. That's like 2.5 scoops of whey protein. So, I mean, my protein is usually like 11 ounces a meal. And so that's for 4 meals, 2.5 scoops of whey protein isolate, another meal. In the morning, I have egg whites, 2 cups of egg whites. So that's my protein. My carbs, I would say, let me add them up. I'd say my carbs right now, depending on the day, like I would say on like my base day, we're like right at like 300 grams of carbs. And I would say if I had to guesstimate fats, I would say my fats are probably like at 70 grams of fat.
But I'm sure he has it all calculated out.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. But that's why I don't really like have all that calculated down to a T. But the craziest thing is that as far as this contest prep, I've been able to get into shape pretty easily. The diet that he gave me when I was 16 weeks out to now, he's had to cut very little food, and I'm literally just tracking at about losing about 2 pounds a week. So I started 16 weeks out, I weighed 296. I was pretty lean, and I bet so like right now I'm like 280. So I've lost about 16 pounds in 6 weeks. So, and obviously that'll start to slow down. That'll sort of slow down as I get leaner and as the show gets closer. But luckily this prep, I've been able to keep my food, be higher than normal and still been able to, come down a little bit every week.
And your off season, how heavy did you get?
So this year, the off season, the heaviest that I got, I think, was like 315.
Mm-hmm.
But anymore, like, I don't like to get that far gone. Like, if I can't see the outline of my abs, to me, that's too far gone, carrying too much weight. So I can still see the outline of my abs and have some vascularity and look like a bodybuilder at 315. I don't like being that heavy just because hard to move around, go down and tie your shoe. You know, you come up, you're kind of catching your breath. And I do cardio year round. Like, I do 25 minutes daily. Year round, just for heart health and things like that. But I like personally feeling, I like the way I feel at 280. Like, the diet hasn't gotten too hard to where I'm super hungry. My functionality is way better. My stamina is better. Like, my recovery is better in the gym. As far as like between sets, like my heart rate gets down quicker, you know, I'm doing a set of squats, and when I'm 315, you know, I just feel better. And when I'm done competing here, whenever that is, like, I would literally, which we'll see, but I would like to be like 250 to 260. And I think that would be like a sweet spot as far as like health, not being any heavier than that and still being able to look a resemblance of myself, and just like to be functional to where, you know, you don't have the aches and the pains and carrying all that weight.
So do you know, like, when you're at your heaviest, you have any idea of how many calories you would generally take in an off season?
I would say this last time, I think he told me we were like at like 5,600.
So not even that much food. I mean, for your size.
But I'm somebody, if I ate like most bodybuilders who don't have diabetes, I'd be fat. Like, I would carry a lot of fat, and then my insulin, I would have to use way too much insulin. My insulin sensitivity, pretty much like when he ups food, and a lot of my coaches, like Chad Nichols, again, I love Chad. He was a great coach, great guy, great human being. We would just play around with like a high protein, high fat, moderate carbs. That's what works best for me, because, you know, some of these guys in their off season, they're eating like 1,000 grams of carbs a day. You give 1,000 grams of carbs to a diabetic, like, I wouldn't be able to control my blood glucose levels.
Right. Well, probably also because of the insulin, you're using every single calorie.
Correct. Because
like,
it shuttles all that to where it needs to be.
Yeah, you're absorbing everything.
Correct.
I noticed,
so that's why I say it's a double-edged sword, because I'm absorbing everything. So yeah, in the off season, and, you know, lifting weights, you know, all those nutrients are getting shuttled to the muscles. You're growing like a weed, right? But then again, when you're dieting, you're absorbing everything. So you got to go pretty low to get to where you need to be.
Right. Well, I think it's almost better that than the other way, where it's like with the Crohn's, like, I'll eat, but like without insulin, food goes straight through me.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm probably maybe getting 30% of what I'm eating is actually getting into me. But I've noticed with the insulin, and I use 20 units of Lantus.
Yeah. And see, I also think, going back to the whole insulin thing, I think the long-acting insulin is way easier for non-diabetics on their pancreas than the fast-acting. Like, you use like a base level insulin like you are, I don't see a lot of guys having a lot of issues with that. I see when guys are pounding the Humalog, the fast-acting stuff, that's when a lot of people, I feel like, get into trouble, and that's when they start having issues when they come off of that insulin as well, for whatever reason. Like I said, I'm no scientist, but just in kind of what I see, if people go down that route or utilize insulin, I feel like the Lantus is a safe option versus using all the short-acting stuff.
Well,
but again, that's just my opinion.
My blood sugar, my A1C was going up from the GH over time, and then 20 units of Lantus just keeps my A1C in the perfect range.
Right.
And just 20 units a day. That's it.
Yeah.
The only other time I'll use a Humalog is post workout.
Right.
Like right after training, I'll do like 10 to 15 units, depending on what I trained.
Right.
And then I'll just eat immediately.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, that I think, again, not a doctor, I'm not advocating it, like, but in seeing a lot of people who come to me with what they're doing, I think that's safe. But I do know when pro bodybuilders get into, and I've seen the protocols, is that when like a lot of these guys who are getting into trouble are using like Humalog at like 4 or 5 meals in their
I've
off
heard
season to
people
help them grow.
using Lantus at like 100 units a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, if, like I said, 20 units covers like, I'm not huge or anything, but that covers the amount of food that I'm eating all day long and keeps my A1C normal. If I took 100 units, I mean, I don't even know how much food I'd have to eat.
Yeah. It's just use and abuse. And, you know, it's just, I think with bodybuilders, a lot of times it's never enough. And that's just kind of when you start to go down a slippery slope and get into some issues with that. So, but it's just sad just because, you know, again, people, you know, insulin is used very widespread in bodybuilding, but something that keeps me alive, like, you know, it does help though, you know what I mean? But, you know, when people get silly and they get negligent with it, that's when, you know, bad things start to happen.
Well, I actually would prefer not to take it because like I said, I'm lean all the time, but I did notice from the last couple of years, I have a little bit thicker skin from using this Lantus than I did before.
Yeah, and that'll 100% happen, 100%. Well, but at least with you though, is that it's probably you're utilizing more of the food that you're eating with your Crohn's.
Well, yeah, what happens if I don't use it, I'll eat and then like I'm straight to the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like almost like right away.
Right.
You know, like almost everything I'm eating is going straight through me. But with the GH and with the Lantus, like, you know, I can eat and, you know, I might go to the restroom, like say, which is more than probably most people, like 5 or 6 times in the day versus if I'm not using that, I'll be on the toilet like almost all day long.
Yeah.
Every time I eat something, I'm going to the restroom.
Yeah.
Because everything's just going straight through me.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much the only reason I use it at all. It's not, I'm actually, other than the post-workout, the regular stuff, I'm not doing it for bodybuilding. I'm doing it so that I can eat and not have to go to the restroom all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're using it because you got an autoimmune disorder. So if it's going to help you, why not do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I said, I think my body, I'm like usually at like 4 to 5%. I think maybe I'm at 6%.
Yeah.
So
but then the risk to reward, it's just like, so what a few more percentages, you know what I mean? If that's helping you not be on the toilet and things like that, you know, to me, that'd be worth it to be a few extra percentage points higher, you know?
Even like I said, I think my skin got a little bit thicker. So I'm not like shredded, peeled. As like I used to just be like contest ready, like 24/7 all year long.
Right.
Now I'm like just a little bit, but not probably no one else would notice it but me.
Exactly. Exactly. But you're a bodybuilder, so you're your own worst critic, just like we all are. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm my own worst critic.
Well, yeah, my whole life I didn't have like any body fat. My skin was like paper thin, and now I have like. It's just I could feel it. You could still see abs and veins and everything. It just
you're always in shape.
A little bit thicker around the midsection, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You use the insulin pump, so it doesn't go. It's not going sub-Q. It's going intermuscular.
No, it's still sub-Q. So like when you put it in, like it's still like subcutaneous because the little port it sits about that much into you, so it's not into the muscle. So I mean, like the little thing that it goes in is about that deep when you put it in and you take the needle out, and the cannula is about that big.
So have you found like where the place that you put it builds fat in that area?
It can, but I rotate it a lot, so I just don't hit the same spot every time. So on my hips, because that's the only place where it can go, like the upper shelf of my glute. So I'll go like. And I have to change it every 7 days. I'll go like wide glute, wide glute, middle, in, and then I repeat. So then if you think about it, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about every 7 weeks, then it goes back to that same spot. So, but I know diabetics who don't do it that way, and they just bang the same spot over and over again, and they have this like lump in their glute or wherever they put it at.
Well, when I originally started messing with insulin, probably like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I just did it in my abdomen area because that's just what people said you do.
Right.
And I noticed I started getting like little like fat deposits, like
little keloids,
like in where I would put it.
Oh, for sure,
So now I just go in my like upper thigh at an angle. Because the skin's so thin there already that it almost makes no difference.
You can go. I mean, really, you can go anywhere. I mean, honestly, like you can go anywhere because the needles are so short. Like, if I ever have to go back to like needle injections, if my pump malfunctions, I'll go tricep, thigh. I'll even go like all up and down my thigh, tricep. I'll even do like shoulder, like very little, like, I mean, because the needle's that short, it's still gonna get absorbed.
Right. And I'll do it at an angle. So like I said, because my skin's so thin, I'll just do it at an angle. So it just goes right under there.
Yeah. Yeah. I even know people who will inject it in their inner thigh too, like their adductor.
Oh, I never even thought about that.
Yep.
I just do it like right on the top of the quad.
Yeah,
because the skin's so thin there. It's like, I did notice like it's maybe like a little tiny bit thicker than it once was.
Right.
But it's in a place where like it doesn't for me, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's
right.
I'm the only one that would ever be able to notice a difference.
Right.
Right there.
For sure.
But yeah, that was just a weird phenomenon that I saw it happen, and then I looked it up and I'm like, this is like a real thing.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I'm always, especially like as I'm getting closer to a show, I'll have Autumn look and I'm just like, make sure that like I don't have any part of my glute like sticking out because I get so lean back there. I don't want anything to like be scarred up back there just because then that takes away from one of my strong suits. So we're really, especially at the end, we're very OCD about where we're putting my ports at.
Right. So we've covered quite a bit of material. I think where are we at now? I don't know how long we've been going so far.
I think it says like 2 hours and 1 minute.
Yeah. So is there anything you want to promote? Shout outs, sponsors, things like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I'm sponsored by Muscle Egg. I've used Muscle Egg. It's flavored egg whites. I was an athlete with them for the last, since 2015. So 10 years. I even used them before that. It's just flavored egg whites. It's 99% egg whites, less than 1% artificial sweetener. And especially being a diabetic, I don't eat a lot of sweets, especially being a bodybuilder. Like I don't get a lot of carbs. So anything that I can get to kind of hack the system to taste sweet, like it just kind of is easier to keep on my plan. So I've literally used them every day for like over 10 years. So they're my main sponsor. Power cuffs, they're BFR cuffs. Actually, DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, he's a friend of mine. And that's what I've been using on my arms the last few years because of my elbow pain. I've been having to do like literally most of all my arm movements with BFR, and I haven't lost any size on it. So give a shout out to them. My wife, I love my wife. Like I said, the beautiful part of bodybuilding, we met through bodybuilding. I can honestly say I'm happily married. She's my best friend. Like I'm very blessed in having her in my life. And, we just have a really good, solid marriage. And it's something that we can share together, which is really cool. I'm competing be 10 weeks from this Saturday in Mexico. So hopefully that goes well. If anybody's seeing you, I think I'm in the works. I'm thinking I might be doing maybe 1 or 2 more guest posings, but that's not official yet. I might be going to the Olympia with Muscle Leg, but that's a week before my show. So we'll see if I'll be there or not. So that's kind of what's coming down the peak. Being a school teacher and a prep coach. The school starts actually on Monday for us, so I'll be back to working 2 jobs now that I had my little summer break. So, but no, I think this has been a good interview, and hopefully, people learned a lot. And if you want to reach out to me, my IT is just Brent Swanson. It's pretty easy to find. And I think the biggest thing is being a type 1 diabetic. If I can help any other type 1s out there, anybody who has any medical issues involved in that, I've had to live with this literally my whole life. So don't be afraid to reach out, just because, I'll help you if I can.
Well, you have a ton of knowledge, and I mean, obviously, what you do works. I mean, no one can argue with that.
Right.
So I can say, I hear a lot of people, scientists and people with, different ideas about like training and nutrition and all this stuff. But I mean, you're walking living proof of, everything that you do. You've made it into reality. And like I said, guys, if you've not seen Brent in person, he is one of the biggest, most muscular bodybuilders on this planet, like for sure. And like Nick Walker's freaky huge, but he's what, 5'6", and you're like, I think you're like 5'11" or something, right?
Yeah, I'm right at 6 foot. Right at 6 foot.
Yeah. So I mean, seriously, Karen. I mean, when you're on a bodybuilding stage, you're dwarfing most of the guys up there.
Yeah, I know. I always joke with Autumn because she has the structure in the small waist. I was like, man, if we could put our 2 powers together, we could probably be Mr. Olympia. So, but it is what it is. For bodybuilding, for me, it's just crazy. One last thing. People just say like, oh, well, you turn pro, like you'll never win Mr. Olympia. I'm like, duh, that's one guy. For bodybuilding, for me, has always been, it's fun. I want to be the best version of myself every year. So as long as I'm getting better every year, that is a win for me. So however, you can't do anything with the judging. As a pro, I've been as high as 5th and then 8th, and then I've been in the next to last call outs. So as long as you're progressing, and it's not a sprint for me, it's a marathon. Like, this is something that I love to do. And, as long as I'm getting better every year, that's all you can do. And however you place is however you're going to place. But I think it's crazy where people are like, oh, well, you turn pro, like, when, like, why aren't you Mr. Olympia? It's like, I'm never going to be Mr. Olympia, but that's never been my goal. My goal is to always just been to live the lifestyle because I enjoy it, and then just to get better and better every year. And I think if more people had that mindset, I think that's more of a realistic, better mindset. Doesn't mean that you don't want to be your best, but like, you just got to think about progressing a little bit at a time, and you stick with it long enough, you'll get to where you want to be.
Well, those progress pictures you just posted recently, that is the roundest and fullest I've ever seen you look.
Yeah, it's really funny. I talked to a pro judge, and I'm known for my conditioning, and that's what has gotten me some of my best placings. Like, even Gary Udit one time said, he's like, man, I haven't seen conditioning like that in a very, very, very long time. That was in Indy when I placed 5th. There was like 4 Olympians and me in the first call out. And then I was like, man, well, let's just keep pushing it harder and harder. Well, in doing that, sometimes when I go too far the other way, I start to not get as full, and it starts to mess even more with my structure. So I was actually told by a few pro judges, maybe come in a little bit fuller. Don't lose your conditioning. I'm not saying don't be as conditioned, but try to come in a little bit fuller this time, because you've already proven that you're the most conditioned guy time and time again. But even if you come in a little bit fuller, you'll still be the most conditioned person, but it'll just kind of help your structure out a little bit too. So I'm glad that you noticed that, because I'm staying a little bit fuller. So that's the goal into doing that. It doesn't mean that I'm going to come in fat, because I'll never come in fat. I'll always be peeled. But the goal is this time to come in maybe like 5 to 7% fuller with that same conditioning, and just see what happens.
Well, you need that roundness because of your structure and your height.
Correct. And if you don't have that roundness and you're flat, it makes my waist look wider. I don't have a belly distension issue. It's my waist is from east to west is so big. So if I start to shrink my shoulders and my lats down, then it messes with my taper. You know what I mean? So
even your quad sweep right now is just crazy.
Yeah.
from the fullness, and you need that quad sweep along with the lats to give you
to offset my waist.
Yep, to give you sort of a V shape.
Correct. 100%. 100%.
Well, I'm excited to see how you look at this next show, because with this added fullness and size, I think you're going to look like a different bodybuilder.
I do too. And it's like, why not try to bring something a little bit different to stage? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'm not going to be conditioned, because I am, but I agree with the judges. If I had a little bit more fullness and roundness to me, then I think that can make a big difference. And we'll just see what's going to happen. You know what I mean? I just want to be my best. And then however I place means however I place. Like, I don't make my living on this. I guess inadvertently, you know, coaching people, I make money, but I'm a school teacher. Like, you know, I do this for the love of the sport, and I love doing it. You know what I mean? I don't have to really worry about sponsors and placings and things like that. So as long as I'm better every show, man, and as long as I'm progressing, like, I'm happy, and then it's up to them to place me where I'm going to be placed.
You know what? And I think there's like two different mindsets in bodybuilders. For me, it was always about the training, and competing was, I did it because I could.
Correct.
But whether I was competing or not, I always want to train.
Correct. And that's the thing too. When I'm done competing, my life's not going to change that much. I'm still going to go to the gym every night. I'm still going to eat the way that I eat. I just won't be on a competitive stage anymore. So I'm definitely with you on that. It's like, you know, I love the training. I love the discipline. I love I love transforming my body, you know, and trying to put a little bit here, a little bit there. That's the fun in me. You compete to celebrate what you've done the last year or 16 weeks or whatever, you know what I mean? And like I said, whenever I'm done competing, it's not like I'm going to stop working out. Like, the same disciplines that I've done since I've been 14 years old, I'll still continue to do to the time that I can.
A lot of the guys that I started with, back when I started competing in the 80s, and they were like top Olympia pros and everything, I mean, as soon as they were done competing, they just basically stopped training.
I don't understand that.
And I used to go to the show. I'm not going to say names, but I would go to the Olympia or the expos, wherever, and I'd see these guys that I've known since I was a kid, and I'd be like, they look like they never lifted a weight in their life. They're like all small and shrunk down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't you train anymore? And they go, well, you can't just do this stuff forever. And I'm like, well, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Why not?
Why can't I?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to do this until they bury me.
Exactly. Same here. Because it's what we love to do, Larry. That's the thing. If you love to do something, you're going to want to do it. The number one thing every day that I look forward to, I can have the worst day of the world, or I can have the best day of the world. But I know if I can just get to the gym, like, I'll be good. Like, I could have the worst day in the world, but I'm just like, okay, after work, when I get to the gym, like, everything will be good. Like, that's my one time a day where I can be me, I can feel free, and I can just literally just have fun. And, you know, I think the problem is that for some of these people, when they compete, like, they don't view it in that same light.
I can tell you training has gotten me through the worst times.
Yep.
I mean,
100%.
I was in prison when I was young, and I mean, we had a powerlifting meet once a year, which I would always win that. So that was fun. But I trained like all on my schedule religiously, because that got me through that time.
Right.
I mean, I went to school there and I worked my little job and whatever, but the training is what got me through it. And when I say got me through it, I would have probably survived anyways, but it was like the one thing that I could had control of and looked forward to every single day was going to work out. And that was with no drugs, no competition, no nothing. And
it's just keep your mental sanity.
Whatever shit food I could get my hands on, you know.
Right.
But and I actually made really good progress during that whole time.
Right.
But I would train my ass off in there, and then when I came out, I didn't even have any interest in competing at that point, because when I first got out, it was like, I just got to make money.
Right.
but I still trained. And I didn't even think I was going to compete until, like I said, I got out and I was working as a marketing manager, and I was training at John Lloyd's gym. And John says to me one day, "Hey, we got this Ironman competition coming up in a few weeks. You want to jump in it?" And I thought about it. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And well, he said, "Hey, fat boy, do you want to do it?" I wasn't fat, but it's like he was like egging me on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you don't know. Like I won the USA when I was 18 years old. I'm like,
right.
Oh yeah, you think I can't do this? And so I jumped in it, and then I started competing again. But it was more just for the fun of the competing. It wasn't like my training was not because I was competing.
Right.
It was like I competed because of my training.
Correct.
All right. Well, this was awesome. It was great catching up with you. And I think
man,
a lot of really good information here. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in this next show. I'm going to be watching that. Hopefully it'll be a live stream so we can cover it.
Yeah, for sure. This is my first time competing in Mexico, so it'll be interesting.
And like we talked about going to the Olympia, maybe not, because
we'll see. We'll see how I feel here in a few weeks, just because it'd be good for my sponsors. It'd be good probably for content and things like that. But then I don't want to put my body at risk. So it'll probably be more of a game time decision. I'll just see kind of how I'm feeling, how I'm looking, and things like that, and just probably go from there.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, I'm going to wrap this one up and stay on there with me for a minute.
Okay.
I believe that the fires were cast upon, on the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling where our temples